Good evening. Tomorrow is the feast of St. Patrick. Who was St. Patrick? The man who drove the snakes out of Ireland, who defeated the Druids in contests of magic, who used the shamrock to explain the Trinity to the Irish. It's a great story, right? But none of it is true. All of these stories appeared centuries after Patrick's death. There were no snakes, no shamrocks, and Patrick wasn't even Irish. But the real story of St. Patrick is much more interesting than the myths. And we come to know some of his story through 2 letters that he wrote in his old age. 2 letters that tell the story of an amazing life, but a life that was full of pain and suffering. A life that was marked by self-doubt and struggle. But overall, a life that was full of faith and hope in a world that was really difficult at the time. So Patrick was born and brought up in Britain. He was spoiled, he was rebellious, and he was living a life of luxury on his parents' estate. But then as a teenager, he was suddenly kidnapped and he was sold into slavery in Ireland, where for 6 years he was really badly treated as he was made to work as a shepherd in a strange land on a lonely mountainside. When Patrick went to Ireland, he was an atheist, but he heard there what he believed to be God's call. So one day he escaped and found his way onto a pirate ship that took him on a rough and dangerous ride back to Britain. He was reunited with his family, who welcomed him back and just assumed that he would take up his life again, living on their estate. But Patrick had heard differently. Having heard God's voice, he returned to Ireland to try to bring a new way of life to the people who had hurt him, who had abused him, who treated him as a slave. And it wasn't easy, but through all the difficulties, Patrick maintained his faith and persevered in what he believed God was asking him to do. Patrick's success and determination really came from the courage to face whatever life threw at him, whatever challenges came his way, as well as having a deep sense of compassion and forgiveness to work with the people who treated him so badly and brought so much pain to his life. And none of it was easy for him. He wasn't naturally like that. He was a man who was really insecure, constantly asked himself, was he cut out to do this job, to take on this mission? So Patrick wasn't a fairy tale saint. He was like you and me, who had challenges in his life. Very much a human being who made mistakes, who failed to live up to his own Christian ideals, but who was honest enough to recognise his faults and not be beaten by them, not give up. So Patrick's story is inspiration to all of us. Let's ask him to pray for us in these challenging times that we are living in today. Good night. God bless.